Revenge office stories. My company thought they could steal the bonus of the one woman who built their entire security system. So, I revoked a single digital certificate and watched their login system and their entire workday grind to a halt. They thought I was just another line item on a budget sheet, a cost that could be trimmed. They were about to learn in the most expensive way imaginable that I wasn't a cost. I was the foundation, and they had just kicked out the cornerstone. This isn't just a story about getting what I was owed. It's a story about corporate arrogance and what happens when the people signing the checks have no idea how the lights stay on. It's about the quiet power of the person who knows how the system really works. They misplaced my bonus, so I misplaced their ability to do business. Turns out, my price was much, much higher than they thought. It all started with a promise. I'd been with Omnicorp for 7 years, ever since it was a frantic, caffeine-fueled startup with maybe 50 employees crammed into a loft that smelled perpetually of burnt coffee and ambition. I was their first dedicated security hire. Back then, security basically meant making sure the Wi-Fi password wasn't password 123. I loved it. I loved the chaos and the feeling that we were building something from nothing. Over those 7 years, I poured my life into that company. I wasn't just an employee, I was an architect. I designed and built our entire security and authentication infrastructure from the ground up. I even named it Aegis. It was my baby. Aegis was the digital gatekeeper for everything. It handled user logins, network access, data encryption, every single application the company used. If you worked at Omnicorp, you started and ended your day with Aegis. You just didn't know it. It was designed to be seamless, invisible, and unbreakable. And for 7 years, we never had a single major security breach. Not one. As the company grew, I grew with it. We went from that 50-person loft to a global corporation with thousands of employees. We moved into a gleaming glass tower downtown. The original founders, the ones who knew my name, cashed out and were replaced by a board of directors who looked like they were carved from granite. The culture of innovation was slowly paved over with a culture of bureaucracy. We became Omnicorp. The name itself felt heavy and impersonal. My role evolved, too. I was now a principal security architect. It sounded important, but I was becoming a ghost in the machine I had built. The new execs didn't know me. They didn't know that the entire, sprawling, multi-million-dollar infrastructure they ran their business on was the product of my late nights and obsessive attention to detail. To them, the system just worked. Like magic. They had no interest in how the trick was done. And that brings me to the bonus. This wasn't a standard holiday bonus. This was a specific contractual performance bonus tied to the biggest project of my career, Aegis 3.0. For 18 months, I led the project to overhaul the entire authentication system. It was a monumental task, like swapping out the engine of a 747 while it was in mid-flight. The pressure was immense. A single mistake could lock out the entire company. I lived and breathed that project. 80-hour weeks were normal. I canceled vacations. My manager, a good guy named David, told me, "If you pull this off, the CTO has promised a life-changing bonus. It's in your project contract. They know no one else could do this." And I did it. The launch was flawless. Not a single help desk ticket. The CTO sent a company-wide email praising the IT department. He didn't mention my name. Still, I wasn't bitter. I knew what I'd accomplished. And I knew the contract was clear. A bonus of $50,000 payable in the first payroll cycle of the next quarter. Payday arrived. I checked my bank account. Nothing. Just my usual salary. Okay, I thought. Asterisk corporate bureaucracy. It's probably just delayed. Asterisk, I waited a week. Still nothing. I sent a polite email to Payroll, attaching a copy of my contract with the bonus clause highlighted. I got an automated reply. "We have a high volume of tickets and will respond within 5 to 7 business days." 7 business days passed. Silence. I sent a follow-up. Another automated reply. Now I was getting annoyed. I went to David, my manager. He looked uncomfortable. I've been pushing, he said, lowering his voice. They're questioning it. Someone in finance is blocking it. They want you to talk to Mr. Henderson in HR. Mr. Henderson, a corporate hatchet man, a professional naysayer whose job was to trim budgets. I scheduled a meeting. His office was on the executive floor, large and sterile, with a panoramic view of the city. Henderson himself was a man in a perfectly tailored suit with a condescending smile and the cold, dead eyes of a shark. I calmly explained the situation and presented the contract. He steepled his fingers. I've reviewed your file, miss. He paused deliberately, as if my name wasn't worth remembering. Yes, the Aegis Project. Impressive. The word dripped with insincerity. The contract is quite clear, I said, keeping my tone level. Ah, yes, the contract. He picked it up like it was a dirty napkin. You see, bonuses, even those in contracts, are ultimately discretionary. They depend on many factors. Company performance, departmental budgets. He trailed off. Are you saying the company isn't going to honor its agreement? I asked. He gave me that thin, reptilian smile. I'm saying that Payroll has reviewed the matter, and at this time there is no record of an approved bonus payment for you. It seems the request was misplaced. Misplaced. The word hung in the air. It was so deliberately insulting. He wasn't just saying no. He was saying I didn't matter. That my work, my promise, was a clerical error. A ghost in their machine. I stared at him. So, after 7 years, after working for 18 months on a project that secures this entire company, your position is that my bonus was simply lost. His smile faltered for a second. He was used to people cowering. These are challenging fiscal times, he said, defaulting to corporate platitudes. We have to make difficult decisions. I stood up. I didn't say another word. He had just made the biggest mistake of his career. He underestimated the woman who built the castle walls. He thought he was denying a bonus. What he was really doing was handing me a loaded gun. I walked out of his office. He had misplaced my bonus, and in that moment, I decided I was going to misplace his entire company. It's a feeling a lot of us know too well. Being told our hard work doesn't count, that your value is discretionary. It's the kind of corporate gaslighting that makes your blood boil. If you've ever felt that sting of being undervalued, do me a favor and hit that like button. Let me know your story in the comments. It's important for us to know we're not alone. Now, let's get back to how they learned my value the hard way. Walking back to my desk, all I could hear was Henderson's voice saying misplaced. It wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about respect. It was about the arrogance of a system that could take my work and then tell me it had no value. They saw me as a resource. They didn't see the person who could recite our server architecture from memory. I sat down at my desk, and that's when it hit me with chilling clarity. They thought Aegis was a product the company owned. They were wrong. Aegis was me. It was my logic, my design, my obsession. They saw a fortress. I saw the single, loose brick I had designed into the wall from the very beginning. Let me explain. A modern company runs on digital trust. Every time you log in, your computer needs to know it's talking to the real company server. This trust is established using a digital certificate. Think of it like a digital passport. Within Omnicorp, the highest trusted authority was our own internal certificate authority, or CA. This was the heart of Aegis. The CA's job was to issue all the other digital passports for all the other internal servers. And the CA itself had one master passport, the root certificate. This was the digital atom from which all other trust was derived. Every single device in the company was configured to implicitly trust this one certificate. It was the linchpin. If that root certificate was ever declared invalid, the entire chain of trust would shatter. Every connection would fail. Logins would be impossible. The entire digital infrastructure of Omnicorp would grind to a halt. And what they didn't know, what Henderson in his corner office could never comprehend, was who held the keys. In a company of thousands, best practices would demand multi-person controls for something so critical. But OmniCorp had a blind spot, a legacy of our startup days. The system was designed by me, and the ultimate administrative credentials were held by two people. My manager, David, was one. I was the other, a detail no one in the new corporate structure ever bothered to audit. They hadn't just stiffed an engineer on a bonus. They had stiffed the gatekeeper. They used my flawless system to run the payroll that denied me my payment. They used my creation to disrespect its creator. And they had just given me every reason to demonstrate that fact. They hadn't realized their mistake yet, but they would, very, very soon. The rest of the afternoon was all cold, calculated preparation. This wasn't rage. This was going to be quiet, precise, a ghost pulling a single thread and watching the whole thing unravel. I opened the Aegis Certificate Authority console. There it was, the OmniCorp Global Root CA certificate, set to expire in 2038. The digital heart of the company. Revoking a certificate means adding it to a blacklist called a Certificate Revocation List, or CRL. Every device checks this list. Revoking a normal certificate is a headache. Revoking the root certificate? That's a corporate aneurysm. The system required a reason for the revocation. The drop-down menu had a few options. Unspecified, key compromise, affiliation changed. I smiled. Key compromise it was. The most severe option. It implied that the very foundation of their security had been breached, which would force any competent IT team to assume the worst-case scenario and create maximum panic. The system they failed to pay for was now officially insecure. But I didn't act immediately. I waited. I methodically cleared my personal files, not stealing anything, just documenting my contributions. I answered my last few work messages politely, a model employee right to the end. At 4:55 p.m., 5 minutes before close of business, I executed the plan. Navigate to the root CA. Select the certificate. Click Revoke. Select Key Compromise. Click Submit. A confirmation box popped up. Are you sure you want to revoke this certificate? This action is irreversible. I thought of Henderson's smug face. The word misplaced. The 7 years. I clicked yes. Done. The bomb was planted. I opened my email and wrote a message to my manager with a CC to Henderson's assistant. Subject, resignation. Body, my employment with OmniCorp is terminated, effective immediately. Thank you for the opportunities. I hit send. I stood up, gathered my things, and walked out. No one looked up. I was already a ghost. As the glass door slid shut behind me, I felt a strange sense of calm. The system I built was about to do exactly what it was designed to do, enforce the rules. And I had just written a new one. I slept soundly that night. I woke up, made coffee, and sat on my balcony. I didn't check my phone. I wanted to savor the thought of the chaos from a distance. The beauty of my plan was its silent, creeping nature. At 8:30 a.m. London time, the first employees would open their laptops. Their email client would try to connect. The server would present its certificate, the laptop would check the blacklist, and there it would be. The root of all trust revoked. The login would fail, not with a wrong password message, but a terrifying security warning. A secure connection cannot be established. One user would restart. Then the person next to them would have the same problem. Within minutes, the entire London office would be locked out. At 9:05 a.m. Eastern Time, the wave would hit New York. Thousands of employees, all at once. The VPN would fail. The messaging app, the CRM, the financial software, everything behind the Aegis gate would be inaccessible. Productivity across the entire global organization, 0. My phone on the kitchen counter started to buzz. And buzz. A frantic, continuous vibration. Around 10 a.m., I picked it up. A wall of notifications. Dozens of texts. Missed calls. I scrolled through texts from a former colleague in network ops. Asterisk 8:58 a.m. Hey, you seeing this? No one can log in. Getting some weird cert error. Asterisk. Asterisk 9:15 a.m. This is bad. It's everyone. The whole company. Help desk is melting down. Asterisk. Asterisk 9:30 a.m. Full panic mode. They think it's a massive cyber attack. Asterisk. Asterisk 9:45 a.m. They're rebooting the core switches. LOL. As if that will do anything. Asterisk. Asterisk 10:02 a.m. Wait. Someone just checked the CA. Oh my god. The root cert was revoked. Reason. Key compromise. People are losing their minds. Who would do that? Asterisk. I smiled and took a sip of my coffee. Their IT department was in an impossible situation. Key compromise sent them down an epic rabbit hole. They couldn't just unrevoke the certificate. Revocation is a one-way street. Standard procedure demands you assume the network is hostile territory. They would need to generate a completely new root certificate. But here's the catch. Creating a new root is easy. Deploying it is the nightmare. You have to manually push the new certificate to every single device in the company. Thousands of laptops and servers spread across the globe. You can't exactly do that with a script when no one can log into the network in the first place. It's a manual process that would take days, maybe weeks. Every minute that ticked by, Omnicorp was losing millions. And I was the only person in the world who knew exactly how to stop it. By early afternoon, they had clearly figured out who was responsible. My resignation, timed perfectly with the outage, was a signature. First came the calls from coworkers, then from David, my old boss. I let it go to voicemail. Around 2 p.m., a call came from a blocked number. This was him. I let it ring, letting the panic build. Finally, I answered. Hello. A strained, choked voice. It's Henderson. His voice was thin and laced with pure panic. We have a situation here, he said, trying to sound authoritative. A major systems outage. It appears to have coincided with your departure. I said nothing. Just let the silence stretch. Look, he stammered, his control crumbling. We aren't pointing fingers. We just need to get the systems back online. This is costing the company an incredible amount of money. Is it? I asked, my voice as cool as his office had been. That sounds unfortunate. We need your help, he blurted. Our IT team is struggling. They don't know what to do. Can you just tell us how to fix this? We'll pay you. A contractor rate. Name your price. Name my price. The irony was exquisite. Yesterday, my value was discretionary. Today, it was a blank check. You seem to be having a certificate issue, Mr. Henderson, I said slowly. It appears the primary authentication certificate was revoked. The reason cited was key compromise. That's very serious. I could hear his sharp intake of breath. He was probably on speakerphone with the entire IT leadership hanging on my every word. That's a worst-case scenario, I continued, in the tone of a helpful expert. If your root key is compromised, you can't just flip a switch. You have to generate a new key pair, issue a new root certificate, and then deploy it to every single endpoint in your organization. Manually. That could take your team weeks, assuming they know the procedure. The silence on the other end was deafening. I had just laid out their nightmare. Can you fix it? Henderson finally whispered, the sound of utter defeat. I paused, letting the moment hang in the air. My bonus was misplaced, Mr. Henderson, I said, my voice dropping to an icy whisper. It seems your entire login system was misplaced, too. What a shame. And I hung up. That sound of him realizing the scale of the disaster he had personally created was better than any bonus. It was the sound of corporate karma. Special delivery. If you're enjoying this story of a company getting its just desserts, do me a solid and subscribe. You won't want to miss how this all ends. The call from the CTO came less than 10 minutes later. His name was Mark, one of the few execs left from the early days. He was smart enough to know when to bypass the bureaucrats. "I'm not wasting your time," he said, his voice weary but direct. "Henderson is an idiot. I'm already having him fired. What do you want?" This wasn't a plea, it was a negotiation. "First," I said, "the bonus. $50,000. I want it wired to my account. Not a check. I want the wire transfer confirmation number before we proceed." "Done," he said without hesitation. "Second, a consultancy fee for fixing this. $100,000. Wired at the same time." He paused for a beat. "All right." "Third," I continued, "a formal, company-wide letter of apology from you. It will state there was a critical payroll and management error that led to a failure to honor a contractual obligation and that you apologize unreservedly. No weasel words." "That's unorthodox," he said. "Those are my terms," I replied. Another pause. I could almost hear him running the cost-benefit analysis. Millions per hour in losses versus my price and a little humility. "You'll have it all within the hour," he said. "Just get us back online." 57 minutes later, I received 2 email confirmations from my bank. The money was there. A minute after that, a draft of the apology email landed in my inbox. I replied with a single word: acceptable. From my home office, I logged into a secure emergency access channel I had built into the system years ago, a contingency that was, of course, undocumented. I spent 15 minutes generating a new root certificate. Then I wrote a simple script that would let their IT team push the new certificate out through their device management system, bypassing the login issue. I emailed the files and instructions to the CTO. Subject: your solution. Within an hour of the money hitting my account, the first reports came in from London that they could log in. By the end of the day, Omnicorp was back online. I never set foot in their office again. Henderson was escorted out of the building that same afternoon. I heard he never got another executive position. I took a month off, traveled, and then started my own cybersecurity consultancy. My first client was Omnicorp's biggest competitor, who had heard rumors of the Aegis incident and wanted to hire the person who could bring a corporation to its knees with a few keystrokes. In the end, Omnicorp learned a very expensive lesson. They tried to save $50,000 by disrespecting an employee and ended up paying triple that, not to mention a full day of catastrophic losses and a public humiliation. They forgot the most important rule of technology. You can't put a price on the people who actually build and maintain your systems. They thought I was just a cog in their machine, but they forgot that some cogs are load-bearing. Some cogs know exactly how the whole machine works. And if you don't treat that cog with respect, you might just find out you're not in a machine at all. You're in a house of cards. So, let me ask you, have you ever had to teach a company the true cost of undervaluing its people? Let me know your story in the comments below.